Welcome on stage. Do you have a mic? Yeah.
All right, I've got a mic. How did we make this happen? We traded date night.
Really?
You're worth
Date
it.
night.
You're
What are you
worth
talking
it.
about?
No, thanks for including us. Later. Keep my wits about me.
So, as promised, I asked our community what they want to hear from you guys. And I was like, they're coming. We have a fireside chat with them. What do you want to know? So, let's say the founders in the room were pretty kind of digging in for specific features in the roadmap for OpenAI. But cleaning that aside, everybody, all single one of them, wanted to know how the two of you met.
I get to take it. We've been married for a very long time, which is crazy. And we have 3 crazy kids, 2 of which twins turn 9 tomorrow morning. Yes, big things in store. So we actually met, let's see, are we in 2025? We met 20 years ago.
Wow.
And in fact, last week, we were in Australia, and we hadn't been back to Australia for 20 years. So we actually did a shotgun trip right when we started dating, which everyone said was either the dumbest thing or the best thing ever. And so actually, Kevin did his undergrad at Harvard, came out for his Stanford PhD in theoretical particle physics. And
Wow.
I was undergrad in econ, master's in eng, and the only reason we met on the triathlon team. And the real way we met, I was so diligent. I told the triathlon coach, I was like, I'm running this marathon in Sacramento tomorrow. I'm not going to be at practice. And she's like one of those ultra connectors. And she's like, oh, that guy in lane 3 in the green cap, he's running the same marathon. And so sure enough, I was like, okay, cool, but I'm going to do this seriously. And I was going to see my mom. And so it was, I wasn't trying to be an awesome teammate. And then I was like, no, I should let him know it's cold at the start. And so I pinged him out of the blue, and he didn't respond to me.
What?
Because he was going to go run this like really fast marathon. He probably thought I was like some slow runner.
Who runs faster?
Oh, he does totally. I will give him that. We met, but it was a point in time. And then who remembers Pluto's on University Ave? Best restaurant ever, like in the olden days. Oh my gosh, now we're so old. And we met at the end of the race, and then we were heading back to Stanford, and he said, hey, do you want to have lunch tomorrow? And we met. Found out he had a girlfriend of 6 years, so I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to be cloudy at all. He's just like a cool guy. And then fast forward about 6 months later, he called out of the blue. We went on one date. We planned a trip to Australia, and we were married a year later and bought a house prior to that. So
Wow.
we did things kind of backwards
You
and
guys
kind of
move
weird,
fast.
but I don't know. So, yeah. And I thought I was going to be married to some professor of theoretical particle physics in like in Ohio or something. So, yeah.
Never imagined you'd work in the same industries.
Oh, God, no. Oh, he was a nerd. The first date, he had a safety pin on his
Thank
polo. A safety pin showing on his polo. Yeah, he was that cool.
Elizabeth,
He
you're
hasn't
cool.
gotten much better.
Just the fact that she said was, I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay, so you started in Twitter together, already a couple?
No, I did it.
Take us back to
I
those
did it.
days. Okay.
No, it was so where it really started. So I was at Menlo Ventures and Institutional Venture Partners after Stanford, and I was like baby VC, learning the ropes, dialing for dollars, talking to every portfolio founder that existed. And when I was at IVP, we made an investment in Twitter in the end of 2008, and it was about 20 people at the time. I'd been a beta user, but I'd tweeted like a nominal amount of times, and then it was pretty dormant. And we'd made the investment, and I came home. I was talking to somebody at the company, and they said they needed somebody to start their analytics team. And I came home to Kevin, who was still in the physics PhD, and I said, who do we know that could start the analytics team? And Kevin's like, I could learn that. I'm like,
Wow.
And the next thing you know, he interviewed with Biz and Ev. He was hired as like the 30th person, started, and then he was there for 6 months. I started hanging around the office, so I was taking my computer, and there were no badges needed for the doors, so you'd be there for the company all hands. And then it was finally Ron Conway who said to me, "If you're taking up space, we're going to put you to work." And I quit at IVP and started there, and best ride and best decision.
There really were no badges back then. You could we were in the fourth floor of this building in San Francisco, and you could just walk in. And at that point, there were enough people that, and Twitter wasn't the thing that it is now by any means, but there were enough people that, loved the service. Sometimes they would just walk in, and I would be like sitting there writing code. You'd look over your shoulder and be like, can I help you? And they're like, well, I just wanted to come and say thank you. I really like Twitter. And you're like, okay. A little nervous.
So actually, Kevin, a lot of people know you as the product leader that you are today, but reading about your background, I learned a really amazing fact that you were just now sworn in to be Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army.
Yeah, in the Army Reserves, yeah.
What does that mean? I have a little photo of you here.
Oh, yeah.
Pledging allegiance, I assume?
Yeah. So it's myself, Boz, who's CTO at Meta, Sham, who CTO at Palantir, and Bob McGrew, who used to be OpenAI's head of research for many years. And so it's just this 4-person group, although we hope to expand it over time. And the goal is to bring AI into the military, into the DoD, in a much more significant and meaningful way. Because for those of you who know the institution, it's way too slow, especially given the adversaries that we have out there in the world right now.
All the Israelis in the audience now want to join that team right now.
I mean,
we're all in.
Yeah. I mean, if we were nearly as pragmatic as the IDF, I think we would be a lot further along in this particular journey. But
when did you first hear about this? How was the thought of joining the U.S. Army
So I've been working pretty closely with the DoD in various ways for the last maybe 5 years. And so it's something I believe in, and it means a lot to me. It's I like to work on missions that are bigger than me, and certainly the U.S. has a very important place in the world, and we're not perfect, but I far prefer it to just about anything else that's out there. So I want to do my part to keep it going, and so the idea was that there was just this small group of us that they got together, and you could do it as a consultant. You could do, there are lots of consultants in the military, but doing it this way, joining the reserves, wearing the uniform, we've got to go, do all of the fitness tests and the at least accelerated versions of a lot of the basic training and things like that. And it's just a different thing if you show up at Indo-PACOM wearing the uniform and having gone through some of the same things that the soldiers have gone through versus showing up in jeans and saying, hey, let me help you with AI. So it means so much more to me to actually be a part of the Army versus just they're trying to help as a consultant.
I think that's admirable. So talking about big missions, OpenAI, you joined?
Last June, so 15 months ago.
So how did you take that decision? What did you think about it? What changed from the moment that you said yes to the job to what you're experiencing now?
Oh man, it's the fastest moving company I've ever been a part of by about a factor of 100.
From outside of that too.
So I'd known Sam, who I saw in the intro video, spoken here a bunch of times. I've known Sam lightly over the years, enough that I would, if I was ever thinking about doing something new in my career, I'd give him a call. Because he's always, investing in all these interesting things. He's got fusion companies that he's investing in. He lives 10 years into the future, and always has this fascinating perspective. So I called him before I went to Planet. I talked to him, and he introduced me to some companies. I ended up going to Planet. This time, as I was thinking about doing something new, I called him, and he said, "Actually, there's this role at OpenAI. Would you be interested in coming in to lead product?" And I went in and met some people and came home just being like, look, I will work for free at this company. This is the most interesting thing I could possibly do. if you give me an offer, I'm taking it. I don't
There's
don't
no
care what it says.
negotiation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was not trying to find a job quite yet, but it was just the most interesting thing in the world, and it definitely has been over the last 15 months.
Yeah, he's never taken time off between jobs, and that's still the.
That's still.
Yeah, I don't think I've
Reality.
slept in the last 15 months, but
No, I can
but it's
corroborate
been
that.
fascinating, mind expanding. The world is going to change so much in the
It
next
is
few
changing.
years, and it's
How do you define success? What does making a good product working at OpenAI mean even? It's completely changing how we interact with technology.
That's a really good question. I think, the mission of the company is to ensure that AGI benefits all of humanity. So you've got to do three things to do that. First, you've got to try and build AGI, which we're on the path to doing. Ever more intelligent, more powerful models. There's the word benefit in there. So they've got to be safe. They've got to be, sort of aligned with the right set of goals. And then there's the all of humanity part, which means, it doesn't do you any good if you have the most, intelligent model in the world and it's sitting on the shelf and no one's using it. You've got to actually put it in people's hands. And so one of the core tenets at OpenAI is this idea of iterative deployment. It's like the world is going to change really quickly. And when we build a new model, we have some sense of its capabilities, but we don't know its full set of capabilities. And so we'd rather get it in people's hands. And rather than trying to keep it internal and then, bestow something fully formed upon the world, we'd rather just launch it early and often, get it in your hands, get your feedback, have you, kind of all of society co-evolve with these models as they get smarter and smarter. And so we try and put things in people's hands early and often. Sometimes that means, experiences are a little bit broken around the edges. You've probably seen that. We're really good at naming things as a result. But I think it's the right mindset because we really are together kind of figuring out what these models are, what they're good for, what they're still not good for, where they need to get better. And the more that we put it in your hands, we get feedback, the faster we iterate, the faster we all get to a better future.
And how does it work? You come home and you share this very cool company that you just met with, and you'd be like, well, that's going to be in our roadmap in 2 months. Don't.
Now, on the Scribble side, it works so well. So Kevin is our, relatively small team. We're currently investing out of our third fund. We'll be raising a small second breakout fund soon. And Kevin's our operator in residence. So full day job. We have a full team at Scribble. Full team, I mean 5 of us. But we're awesome and very scrappy and do a lot. But Kevin very much can help influence, and not trade secret wise, but thinking directionally where we are going, helping think through, we talk a lot about moats, especially when it comes to the AI opportunities, but where can you foresee moat creation or a lack of moat creation? So we get a lot of benefits out of Kevin and his thinking, I think, in addition to just network. I think OpenAI, as well as other LLMs, will be a phenomenal hotbed for talent, and we're already starting to see that. And I think just staying close with those founders, too, is something that's pretty important. But we still spar on things, and we have a policy. I say at Scribble, consensus doesn't see around corners, so any of us investing can make an investment. I think that's going to breed the best, difference of thought and build a really rad portfolio at the end of the day. So we're working to do that.
So I kind of work for her, and she always tells me that I'm on a performance improvement plan.
Keep you hungry.
But how much has changed? How different it is to evaluate pre-seed teams with everything going on now? How do you define between the noise?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always been a very founder-first investor. I think great founders can have hairball bad ideas and will pull a rabbit out of a hat. and I don't think you can do that vice versa. So we very much try to find that top 1% talent, and of course, swinging for large markets and real products and moats. But I think founder talent is more important than ever, especially with the grit and the speed that's needed these days. As you're probably all noticing, you can work with a lot less people, a lot more horsepower given these tools that we have, and that's going to be hard to build world-changing company, a small amount of people, and it is a big load. And so finding those talents that can outlast themselves essentially, and build world-changing companies.
What was the latest pitch that you heard that kind of blew your mind?
Oh, we actually invested in a recent deep tech company and I do think this is directionally correct, and PhDs that have been working on this for longer than I feel like I've been alive. But actually being able to translate thoughts into words and AI, and seeing that working right now, it's ridiculous. Right now, you have to have some sort of hardware form factor on the head, which I don't think will be, a forever form factor. But being able to think and have it output, I think is just wild.
Can I give you my favorite one recently? We invested in a company that's building, they call it Ozempic for sleep. So the 1% of people have this gene where you don't need to sleep more than 3 or 4 hours. And it's not that you can survive with 3 or 4 hours of sleep, it's that you only need it and you wake up totally refreshed after 3 or 4 hours. Sounds amazing. I would love to have more hours in the day. And so with like CRISPR and all of these things, their goal is to figure out if they can safely modify anybody that wants to be that way, to only need 3 to 4 hours of sleep and yet wake up perfectly refreshed.
You just got the longest waiting list, I think,
Right?
ever.
Right? That's why you invest in that company. Everybody in the audience is like, man, if I could do that.
Sign me up.
But I like my sleep.
Wow.
And then we also, these are some really wacky out there long term. We very much do some B2B SaaS, and we are very AI heavy and AI first. We have some consumer investments. We have some great AI agentic tools. Today we announced a partial distribution of one of our companies in our first fund, a company called Whatnot in the consumer space, live shopping, entertainment, and auction.
Live shopping?
Live shopping, auction format. It's kind of like, if you think the new eBay, go check out Whatnot. It's wild. People watch it for entertainment. People also use it as their collectible outlet. And we were actually able to return about 70% of our first fund.
Woo.
So we're trying to do good little things and, have others shout from the rooftops, but we kind of keep this low profile. So come to us if you're a great founder.
Very subtle, Elizabeth. So we talked a bit about how we will all interact with AI. You talked about the wearables and all of that. Where are you looking at these days? Like, what is the long-term vision, the short-term vision?
So
I think, go ahead.
I would say a few of my themes, and you probably have some totally different ones. I think we will all be shocked that we aren't individually taking personalized medicine in 10 years. I think we will be shocked that you and I each don't have something customized just for us. Another big theme I think we think about is education, that each of us will have a live, living tutor in our pocket that knows the type of learning and education we thrive on, how we take inputs. I think we'll be shocked that isn't de facto in a few years. And then one thing I think of in the weird out there, and I don't even really know how to define this, but having children and my mom is 83, and I still have access to her and her knowledge base and her health. But I think we will be outlasting ourselves. And by that I mean our knowledge bases and our brains. I think my kids will be able to ask me questions after I'm deceased. And I'm not sure, again, what form that's going to take, but I think there's something about this, like, post us, which is really weird. What do you probably have some other wild. weird things
Well,
or
I'm
very
totally
normal.
with you. I'm totally with you on the education one. It actually shocks me because like some of the things I'll say are sort of next level capabilities of the models, and we'll get there very soon, but we're not there yet. When you talk about personalized education and the idea that every single kid in the world can have a free personalized tutor that knows basically everything that humanity has learned over the last, millennia, that's possible today. The models are good enough to do it today, and it's still shocking to me that there is no, and there are lots of like companies that are trying to do this. Khan Academy is great, but it's not super widespread. And I mean, even here in the middle of Silicon Valley, it's not like our kids have a personalized tutor. But imagine the impact of that if every kid growing up in every country of the world has a free personalized tutor. Like the world is a different place
I think
in a
there's a
generation.
huge gap to tap on what you said between physical autonomy. Like I'm here in San Francisco and I see cars driving themselves, which I'm terrified of, by the way.
You've ridden in Waymos, right?
No.
You've got to do
Mind
it.
No, I'm not doing
blown.
it.
It's the best. You'll never
Yep.
go back.
I'm not going into that. But and like an agent can't book me a flight. I think like how do you explain that gap? It's mind blowing to me that a car can drive itself, but I still can't have this agent buying me stuff.
Well, I think that's the next. When you look at like where does ChatGPT go, a lot of the next, call it 6 to 12 months is going to be about ChatGPT going from answering questions for you to doing things for you in the real world. And the models today actually can take a fair amount of actions. If you ask it to book you a trip, like it could do it. I'm not sure I'd trust,
Yeah.
like let it just blindly book whatever it decides to book. But especially with some of the more advanced tools that we've put out there, like the agent product, it can do it. It can
What are
use the
the-
web and browse for you and things like that. And the lesson that I've taken away from the last like 15 months or so is that there's this progression where you go from, oh, an AI model could never do that, to like, an AI model can just barely do that, but it sucks at it, to very quickly like, oh, of course AI can do that for me. I will never do that for myself ever again. and I think we're in that phase with things like creating PowerPoint slides, booking plane tickets, things like that, where we're at that like middle phase where it kind of can do it, but it's not great at it, and you don't totally trust it. But
On
that
a
just means that like
timeline?
very quickly it's going to be great.
On a timeline, like months?
Everything in this world is months.
Wow.
The other thing, by the way, that I am personally super excited about right now is I don't know how much you all see it, maybe depending on like what your passions are and what your companies do, but models are getting to the point now. I think GPT-5 was like the thing that crossed the threshold where models can do fundamental science. So they can actually do mathematical and physical research. They can do biological research, and they can make advances that are on par with, or sometimes to the point of surprising and improving upon, what the most advanced researchers in the world can do. And remember, the model that you use today is the worst AI model that you will ever use for the rest of your life. So if they're today getting to the point where they're at, or maybe in some cases better than, the best researchers, just imagine where it goes. And the implications of that are like, maybe we can do the next 25 years of scientific development and discovery in the next 5. And that is a pretty profound thing. So that's one of the things that I'm most excited about over the next
You're
few
not
years.
helping me here because a lot of the questions were ask Kevin if they're hiding models from us. And I was like, I'm not going to ask him that. Are you
always
hiding models?
developing models. We're not hiding models, but actually, there is something really interesting about what I would argue, and I don't think this is super controversial. Most people that use ChatGPT aren't using the most frontier capabilities of the model. So GPT-5 can do way more than the average person using ChatGPT asks for it to do. And that's totally fine, right? ChatGPT is solving lots of problems for lots of people on a daily basis. But the models are getting really good really fast. And I do think there are interesting opportunities around like, well, what if we could build a model, just for the most advanced scientific users, for example, a model that didn't need to scale to 1 billion people, where we could spend a lot more compute on the hardest problems and move the world forward. So We're not holding any models back, but we do have a bunch of cool stuff. Like, I'm very confident that the trajectory that we're on with models continually getting better at a very fast clip, we are not hitting a ceiling. That will continue.
You approve this message.
And one thing from form factor, I think as we see the latency of voice input really, I mean, you can do so much now with voice. And the way we see our children interact with, they just call it chat. They don't type a thing. It is only voice input. And I think that'll become more and more. But I think I know I'm still a legacy of type is the main form factor for me. But I think we're going to see so much more voice usage, especially with the speed.
If you were building something today, what would you build? A new startup, a new venture?
Personally, I think I would go deep into science and try and build something that has never been possible before. Something like, there are a lot of startups that are starting to get at like sort of real world reinforcement learning loops through, biological labs, material science, things like that, where you can do like model driven experimentation that gets passed to a robot that will run a bunch of variants in a lab, and then the results get automatically passed back through the model in a reinforcement learning loop. And there's just like so many cool things like that that are going to accelerate the pace of discovery. So, I mean, you can tell where my head is.
I can.
I think I'd go work for Kevin.
Wait, that would be confusing because also I work for you.
That was a compliment.
Okay. A moment before we're going to open this up for questions from the audience. Explain to me the connection to Israel. What made you be super on board Saturday noon, hearing about this opportunity? Is there a connection? Are you just very spontaneous?
I mean, I also try to be spontaneous sometimes, but so when I was working on Libra, the crypto project at Meta, we had a pretty big team in Tel Aviv, like a third of the company was in Tel Aviv. And then even it just as it turns out, most of the people on my own team, even though they were in Menlo Park, were all Israeli. And so there was a lot of Hebrew flying around the office at all times. And I was going back and forth to Tel Aviv like every, twice a quarter or something.
Wow.
And it's my favorite city in the world. I hadn't... And I hadn't learned a language since like Spanish in high school, and I was like, man, there's so much Hebrew. Like they're all, I need to go learn this. So the next time they're like going back and forth in a meeting, I know what they're actually saying. So I started learning Hebrew and just have fallen in love with Israel and Tel Aviv and everything.
I promise not to test you on this.
Yeah.
I'm going to honor that.
And now he hides in the living room every single day doing his Duolingo, much to our chagrin. Yes.
I'm going on a 2,000-day streak.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Yeah, but you want to see me sweat? Ask me a question in Hebrew and make me.
I will. I promised I won't, and I'm trying to be a gentleman here about this. To the two of you, thank you so much. I wanted to do this speed run thing, but I'm seeing the faces in the audience be like, give me the mic. So who wants to go first? Asif? Yes? You're here? Okay. Introduce yourself. Say your name.
Hi, I'm Asif. Nice to meet you. Thank you. It was super interesting. I'm also in the brain-computer interface space. My question is to Kevin. How do you go about, well, first of all, without trying to get the roadmap of OpenAI out of you, how do you go about thinking about advancement, improvement of models? How the next big version is going to feel? How do you, or are you trying to measure, very specific use cases and very narrow things? How do you do that?
It's a really good question because it's very complex and it's sort of a mix of science and art. I mean, you'd be surprised how much vibe testing actually goes into the last like 3 weeks of building of finalizing a model. You just got a ton of people who we sort of feel are particularly high taste, who are going through, and it's not about benchmarks. I mean, we also look at all the different benchmarks and evals and yada, 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 but at some point it comes down to like, I'm just asking the model a bunch of questions and kind of there's a gut feel for how it responds. So I mean, the science side is we're scaling pre-training, we're also scaling inference time training and reinforcement learning, teaching the model to think for longer and longer about harder problems and to like stay on track. And that just makes it more useful, both for like some of these hard science things that we've been talking about, but also for more like agentic, just, you know, the act of booking a flight is actually fairly complex. And like figuring out preferences and how that maps and personalizing it and all of that. So you need models that can think, and so we're trying to scale, you know, on both of those dimensions. But then there's this like very soft human side, and there's work on personalization and integration with lots of other tools, because to really be useful, it can't just be sort of a brain in the cloud. It's got to connect to your email and your calendar and all the other services that you use. So kind of across the board, trying to make sure that it knows you, it's very smart, it can think, and it can like connect to the things that you do in the real world, so it can take on more and more for you.
We also need to trust it, I think. Like, trust it is a huge factor here. Do you measure that? Do you know how, you know, do they trust chat?
I think by and large they do. I mean, the people, we take it really seriously from a trust perspective, but also from a security perspective, because people say incredibly private things to ChatGPT, and it's really valuable that they do. I mean, there are things that you wouldn't feel comfortable saying to any person, and you might feel comfortable saying it to chat. People use it as a therapist. I mean, and these are very, very personal things. So in some sense, I mean, the way we think about this is, this may be, over time, if not already, your most sensitive digital account that you have. And the only way that works long term is if people feel very confident that we'll protect your data, that nothing that shouldn't go, you know, like what's yours is yours.
Yeah.
So yeah, we take it really seriously.
Next question? Oh, Jessica.
Hi, thank you. Gal from Oligo Security. First of all, thank you very much. And I do have a question for Kevin. You talked about the next phase from answers to taking action. So a bunch of Israelis were going to ask about security, but how OpenAI actually addressed the challenge of confining agents and tools and agent behavior, which is completely autonomous inside your infrastructure. How can we trust it? How do you gain trust in that?
It's a really good question. The answer, as always with anything security, is defense in depth. And so for any particular agent, I mean, there's a lot of training that goes into the agent beforehand. So teaching it guardrails, things like that. There are going to be specific guardrails for a particular agent that's meant to do a certain thing. So an agent that browses the web, for example, has different guardrails that it needs than an agent that you know, connects to your Google Docs or something. And then we also have agents, or we have models monitoring agents. And so you have, I think one of the things that people don't always do, but that we use everywhere and is kind of a best practice, is it's not about having any one model. You don't like give a model a really involved prompt and expect it to sort of, at this point in AI, expect it to be able to follow the entire nuance of everything over a very long period of time. It's actually more effective to have an ensemble of models, some of which are trained, you know, you maybe even fine-tuned to do specific things, you know, maybe just like prompt tuned, but you have like models doing more specific things that together accomplish a more complex task. And so we use that all over the place too, including models that are like watchdogs for the core thing. So there's a lot, but those are a few examples.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doron from Coversea, and my question is, how much are we in the phase in which models are already building themselves?
That's a really good question. So in some sense, we're there because people build models by writing code, and models write a lot of code, and they write it well, and so people are using models to write the code. But we're not quite to the point of like self-improvement where the models are doing the AI research and suggesting the next, transformer algorithm. But I'm not sure we're far from that. And we would certainly like to get there. So you can imagine there are efforts internally to do that.
Thank you. I got a question, I guess, for both of you here in the back. Yes, yeah. I'm sitting next to Dror, who is made his career in crypto, and he's like grunting here. How come everybody's so critical about crypto for stealing energy, and nobody says that anything about AI consuming so much energy? So my question is to both of you: how do you look at energy? Are there investment opportunities? Is it a hurdle? Is this like a thing? Because we all also, when we look at investments, I think one of the founders here told me there's nothing to invest in other than AI. All I want to see is AI, AI. But energy is also a problem. So just curious about the different points of view in regards to energy.
One thing I will note is we are currently writing a check making an investment in a crypto company. So you are not lost. I think we're going to have another good resurgence there. So that's something on the energy side, it's something we very much are looking at, even on the investment side, on efficiency and planning. It is hugely capital intensive. The time we spent this last week in Australia talking a lot about that, given that that is a country that has a lot of space and natural resources. But hearing some of the things that Kevin said about how much you could consume, I think those are staggering. I think you could make.
Well, I mean, we've committed through this Project Stargate to spend $500 billion over the next not that long, building out infrastructure and compute in the United States, and that starts with it starts with energy, and then it's data centers and land, and ultimately it's GPUs. But the thing that's been consistently true in my time at OpenAI is the more compute we can give to a model, the smarter the model is. The more compute we can then, now with like test time compute, inference time compute, the more compute we can give to the model while you're using the product, the more things the model can do for you. So we have an insatiable demand for compute. That $500 billion we announced, I don't remember, a few months ago. Just like earlier this week, there was a thing that we announced with Oracle where it's another multi-$100 billion effort to build more compute and more infrastructure, which requires more power. So yeah, I think it is a good time to be investing in energy and infrastructure because the world is going to need a lot more of it.
I actually had a question here. What's the binding constraint today, like the biggest one? Compute, talent, or regulation? But it has to be like
Compute.
one word.
Yeah, I'd say compute.
Okay. We have a lot of solutions in the audience. Next question. Here. You'll be next.
Hey, Shai from Ocean. Question about we see a lot of companies trying to create something that human cannot do with agentic AI. My question to you is, do you believe that we can build with intelligence today something that human cannot do, and agentic AI that can do better than human?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are a bunch of dimensions where AI is already better than humans. It is not yet to a point where it's better at humans than everything. You can't replace a human with AI, although you can replace certain tasks that humans do with AI. And so jobs that are like super repetitive, that are kind of the same thing over and over again and don't require a lot of creativity, those are the kinds of things that you're not leveraging your full sort of spectrum of humanity to do those jobs. You're doing the same thing over and over again, and AI can, in many cases, do it better. But there used to be this idea, like when OpenAI was getting started, that we were going to hit AGI kind of all at once. And it was like we would go to sleep and there wouldn't be AGI, and then we'd wake up in the morning and there would be AGI. And I think what evidence suggests that that's not true. Instead, it's this really bumpy landscape where the models are massively superhuman in some places and very far from human levels in other places. And what you see is just kind of the whole landscape moving up over time. So there's not going to be one instant where the models are just better at us than everything. They're just going to kind of slowly get better at a very broad range of tasks.
I think one thing for an example, maybe reading your radiology reports, it won't be better at the most specialized doctor and with some very far edge case, but at the base level, could it read most radiology reports and X-rays? Fairly certain, yes, at least to some degree. So some things like that.
Might even be better at the edge cases than humans because it will have seen those edge cases a whole lot more than the average doctor would have.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm working on AI over at Google, but from an internal tooling perspective. And I'm curious to learn your perspective on two things. One is, do you think there'll be a time where hallucinations aren't something that we run into in chat or in LLMs in general? Or is that kind of a point of genius for them? And then my second question is, how do you think about tonality? Elizabeth mentioned the medical field, and I know from a personal experience, I had kind of a creepy interaction with tonality from chat tonality. So those are kind of my two questions.
Interesting. I'd be curious to hear more about the specifics. But the first question was hallucinations.
Yeah.
I don't know that they'll be zero ever. Humans hallucinate too. We make lots of mistakes, and we have these weird, biases and things like that. So I don't think they'll be zero, but they are going down pretty rapidly. Like GPT-5 hallucinates like 5 times less than GPT-4 did. So I think we get better and better control. And actually, one of the other interesting things is the smarter the models get, the less they hallucinate, because the more they think, the more they can sort of check and answer a couple different ways. And if they don't agree, then there's maybe something going wrong, and the model can catch itself before it outputs an answer that would have been wrong. So I do think the hallucination rate will continue to go down, and it'll be like less of a big deal over time, even though it will still happen. And tonality, I mean, is like it's the sort of bedside manner of the LLM, and there's a real fine line to walk. I mean, we pulled a model back, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. We'd launched it. It was like very DAU positive, like users loved it in many ways, but it was also overly sycophantic. It would glaze you. It'd be like, that's a great idea. That thing you just said, that's great. Oh, you said the opposite? That's also great. And people like that, it turns out. But we were like, this is too much. This is not what we intended. And so there's a real fine line to walk. Because you also, especially you're talking to the model about hard things, you want a supportive friend. You don't want a cold and distant friend or interlocutor. But you also don't want something that just like constantly agrees with you and tells you that all of your ideas are great. If your ideas are bad, it should like suggest something better. And so we really try and get that line right. But models are not perfectly controllable, and so it's like it's just a constant hot topic internally. Are we getting the line right between sort of support without sycophancy?
And one of the things I actually admire about where they are thinking of a big misstep, I think of Alexa, and I feel like that is a major tonality miss, and I very much don't trust it. So I feel like at least you're kind of on the right path.
Okay, we have last question.
So where's the future in terms of search engine optimization in the future models? Like, are you going to monetize it, advertisement, promotion of businesses? Like, how it's going to look like?
I think that we have to be really careful about this because unlike with Google where you have like 10 blue links and then ads, if you were going to get ads in ChatGPT, and I guess the thing that I think need to never confuse is I never want someone to get an answer from ChatGPT and be saying, is this what the model thought was best for me? Or is this what OpenAI was paid to say? And so that's the like, I think that's a pretty bright line for us because of trust, like you were saying. So there's like there's nothing big happening on that front at the moment. We're working on commerce, which if you've, we see a lot of people searching for products inside ChatGPT, and that's one place where we're going to try and experiment with like, what does like this sort of commercial behavior inside this product look like, and how does it feel, and how do we get it right?
Okay. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.